の鼓動が消えかかるそれがオレンジャー熱い血流れる鋼のマシン
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 30 of For Your Eyes Ohranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. Every week, well, I mean, you know what I mean.
Most weeks.
Every week, we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J, and with me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today? Welcome back.
It's good to be. Yeah, thanks, man. It's good to be back. I've been traveling for just a really long time, so it's good to be home. And sorry, guys, that we haven't had new episodes. I mean, there have been new episodes. We're a little bit behind on, I guess, on Ohranger, but
yeah, I think this is the part of the podcast where you apologize for the podcast.
Yeah,
which I think is an important part of any podcast.
Yeah, listen, we could have recorded ahead, but what do we look like? Ranger Danger? That's not how we do things here.
No, listen, I know a lot of people do, but we have a different system, and our different system is relying on Mark to pick up the slack.
Hey!
Which he did admirably. So
thanks,
I hope you guys like Live Man and Spider-Man, because those, I mean, you know, that's what we had for the last 2 weeks.
That's what we did, yeah.
This is not news to you that those were the episodes we had. And they were good, man. Dude, Dave, at some point you should watch Live Man. Live Man is very fun.
Yeah, no, I did go back earlier today, and I was reading your Twitter feed, and that GIF you posted with where he does the fire sword looks very, very cool.
Oh yeah, dude, they're like weird flaming sword. Because the thing about Live Man is it's of an era of the show where all the special effects are just like hand drawn animation put on top of the like film cells.
Right, no, I dig it a lot. I think it's very cool.
It's got such a good aesthetic. But that is for a different sort of side project, Dave, that we do when you're not here. But this week you are here, and we are talking about episode 30 of Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. It's called The Earth's Sleeping Like a Log. But of course, before we get into that, Dave, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. What is our first star of the week?
So, in an act of super fandom, that if it came from anybody else, I think I might genuinely start, like, getting the paperwork together for a restraining order. Producer Mark has gone through and re-listened to at least enough of the 5 stars of every single episode of this show, of which I think what we are recording right now, Matt, is episode 199. And he has...
Yes.
Yeah. And ask me why I know that, because he has created a comprehensive list of every single star, numbered by episode, and has also done, like, a little bit of data science.
Yeah.
So we now have a running tally of all of our, like, most used topics. I think the thing that we have talked about the most is what it looks like is movies. We've talked about movies the most.
Do you have it open right now?
I do have it open right now, yeah. I pulled it up so we could talk about this. We talked about movies 60 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, no, wait, sorry. Video games. Video games is in at 85.
Okay.
Video games are in it 85 times, 60 times on movies.
Does that include, like, all of the times we talked about Fallout 4, or is that an entirely separate thing?
Well, Fallout does have its own category, and we did talk about Fallout 12 times. But I don't know if he counted them for both, so I guess I would have to ask. So our biggest category is video games, 85 times, and then after that is movies at 60. Just in under that is food/restaurants at 57, and then I think the next most common theme is Super Sentai Power Ranger stuff, which makes a lot of sense. And then there's a bunch of things that have, like, between 25 and 35 mentions. So, like,
Sure.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe has 35 mentions. I don't know if that's also counted under movies. I would guess it has been.
Yeah, I think he's probably got some subcategories going on. And then is Bus Update and Commute Update counted together?
No,
Okay.
there have been 16 commute updates, 7 bus updates, 5 walk updates, 8, maybe I should just tell you, 8 baby watches, 12 hashtag fun office, 23 plays/musical news, 7 tags on Trim Healthy Mama /Lifestyle Guru, 20 on comic books, 7 on Netrunner, 24 on board/card games, 30 on tabletop RPGs, 14 on LARP, 6 on everybody's favorite spirit, Scotch, 60 on movies, 5 on Mystery Science Theater 3000 alone.
As I mentioned, more of those coming up, not this week, but
you're going to listen to them. 85 times video games, Fallout 12 times, Assassin's Creed 7 times, 10 black holes, which over the course of 200 episodes, we only had 10 negative things to talk about.
Yeah, I think, honestly, we stopped doing those because they're a huge bummer.
Yeah, well, every once in a while, you just got to talk about something. 8 times we've talked about Pokemon Go, 23 times we've talked about Nintendo, 25 times we've talked about just other podcasts. Oh, wait, I am looking at so Mario Kart 8, for example, is counted in both video games and Nintendo.
Okay.
So some of these are fitting in 2 categories. Matt's car is busted. We talked about 7 times. We talked about food restaurants 57 times, holidays 35 times, birthdays 11 times, WWE/wrestling 31 times, the Marvel Cinematic Universe 35 times, Dave's on break /Dave is a jerk 11 times, and then 17 times we've had a guest. Wait, guest host 17 times? Maybe that's we've had a guest host or we've talked about being a guest host on somebody else's show?
That may well be. It was very weird. I went back and I was reading through these, and it's kind of weird because in some ways, I don't go back and re-listen to the old episodes much.
Yeah, not a lot, no.
I mean, I do it occasionally when I'm feeling nostalgic, but the thing about the old episodes is the way we structure the 5 stars is they're kind of it's kind of like a running, diary for us a little bit.
It is a little bit. So I'm looking at episode 13, and that's when I bought an Xbox One.
Oh, yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
In episode 2 or 3, I had just turned 30.
Yeah, you had, which is real crazy.
And so going back, it's like reading, my memoirs, but someone else wrote them down.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird. So, hey, Matt, how is that? In episode 15, you talked about ordering a mattress. How's that mattress holding up for you these years later?
Pretty good. I actually just did some laundry earlier today, and I was just before we started recording putting some fresh sheets on it.
Isn't that the best? I'm always embarrassed by, when I put fresh sheets on the bed, I'm like, why did I do this? You just don't think about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you do it, and you're like, oh, I should have done that ages ago. Now that I'm an adult, I'm a lot better about it. But when I was younger, that was it's a habit I had to build. Let me say
when
it that
you were
way.
a younger man. Yeah. When we started this podcast almost 4 years ago.
Wow, it really was. Yeah.
What is also kind of embarrassing is there are bits in there where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. There are stars where I am making declarative statements about actions that I'm going to take, and then I think about it, I'm like, yeah, no, I never did that. But occasionally I follow through. Yeah, it's very interesting. I know Mark put it up, and I want to say I retweeted it. So if you go back through my the Twitter feed, I'll probably retweet it once this episode goes up. But yeah, it is at least for me and Dave, a fascinating read. Your mileage may vary.
So anyways, thanks. Thank you, producer Mark, for doing that for us. Matt, what is our second star of the week?
Dave, second star of the week is over the time that we've been away, we had the 4th of July.
Yes.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy birthday, America.
And so I was, on the 4th, going down to see some fireworks, because I am a big fireworks guy. I know that I know they are not for everyone, and I respect that, but for me, they are wonderful. So I was going down to the lakeside riverfront downtown area to go see some, and I was walking through a part of town, and I saw a fancy horse trailer, the sort of thing you attach to the back of a truck to transport your horse when you're going further than the horse would go itself just by running. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're a weird thing to exist when you think about them, but whatever. Anyway, it was fancily painted, and it had this slogan on it. It said Hinge Town Stables. Now, for those of you who are not from Cleveland, or specifically the west side of Cleveland, you will know.
Wait a minute. No, because we've talked about Hinge Town before.
The thing about Hinge Town is that it doesn't really exist. It is one intersection. It's like the intersection of Church Street and West 29th Street, sort of up until you hit Detroit. And that's it. It's like a block. And it is not a block in the part of town where there are stables or I have ever seen a horse, and I worked right there for about 4 years. And I want to be clear, there was not a horse in or near this horse trailer. It was just sitting in what I have always assumed to be an abandoned lot.
Could it have been a modified food truck?
No, dude, there was a picture of a horse on it, like a painting of a horse. And there did not appear to be a grill or anything in it. I mean, honestly, a food truck would make a lot more sense in that part of town. And now I'm just kind of fascinated about how this fancy, recently purchased, you can tell, recently purchased and decorated horse trailer, where's the horse?
I don't.
Is there a horse lost somewhere on West 29th Street?
Here's what I'll tell you. Hinge Town Stables does not return any direct results.
Okay.
On Google. Hinge Town does come up.
Well, they paid a lot for that marketing campaign.
There's a website, Matt. Hingetown.com. Dude, they desperately need somebody else to write the ad copy for their website. Can I okay. Hinge Town. To be clear, I'm quoting, all right? At no point am I going to deviate from this script starting now. Here we go. Hinge Town is a part of the Ohio City neighborhood in Cleveland. Hinge Town has a kick-ass art museum, unbelievably delicious coffee, the best florist, dynamic residential opportunities, and much, much more. It's located between Ohio City's Market District, Gordon Square Arts District, and the Warehouse District, end quote. And that's just
Hey, listen, now, I will say, they do need someone else to write the copy. They got a great florist.
Okay, the best florist. I like the idea that there is a singular florist. They're like, it's the best, though.
Hey, listen, the art museum is cool. They've got a great coffee shop, but I do love that it's not a good florist. It's not the best florist in town. Apparently, it is the best florist.
Anyway, so Hinge Town Stables doesn't come up with anything. So I got nothing for you, dude. There's just like a ghost horse loose, and you're part of the neighborhood.
Well, cool. Great. That's terrifying. Next star. Don't want to think about ghost horses, and I also don't want to steal some very, famous podcast flavor.
Ghost horses? Has somebody else talked about ghost horses a bunch?
Oh, dude, that is a classic My Brother and Me bit.
Oh, seriously? Oh, okay. I did not know that. That must be in an episode that I have missed. Anyways.
They had merch about it and everything.
Wow, really? Man, okay. I believe you. I'm just disconnected. What is our third star of the week?
Dave, our third star of the week, this is a short one. I was out for a walk the other day. I guess this is another walk update.
Walk update.
And I was up, just sort of walking around my neighborhood, and I saw a sight that I rarely see, which is a bird on the sidewalk, just grabbing a worm and eating it. Now, here's the thing about this. I know that birds eat worms.
Right, no, I know that birds eat worms.
There's a whole there's a whole saying about it.
Yeah, but I don't know that I've ever literally seen a bird. Did it pull it out of the ground, or was it just there?
I mean, it was dragging it along. I don't know, if it had... The worm was kind of wriggling, and it did not look like it had just been, sitting on the sidewalk. It also hadn't, just rained.
Okay, because, I don't think I've ever literally watched a bird pull a worm out of the ground and eat it like spaghetti, which is, I assume, how they would do it. I don't know.
Of course. Now, here is the upsetting part about this, Dave. I looked at my watch when this happened. It was 7:38 p.m., and I felt like the world had been lying to me my entire life, because this was the 7:38 p.m. bird, and it got a worm just fine.
Maybe it was getting a head start on the next day's worms.
No. This is not like when you stay up past midnight and you're like, oh, it's tomorrow. Like, no, this was 7:38 in the summer. The sun was still up.
Maybe this bird had commuted and he was still on like England time. So for him, it was like 6 hours in the future. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is falling apart for me. I'm sorry.
I do like
can
the
imagine
idea of a commuting bird.
That's thrown you for like a real existential loop, I imagine.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You always hear the thing about the early bird getting the worm, and I've always thought that was, a little... Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of that one, because I'm not an early bird myself, and now, like, I felt a moment of having been lied to my whole life, but I also felt a moment of vindication. Like, yes... 7:38 p.m. is a perfectly good time to get worms.
Sorry, I'm also laughing at the cartoon that's playing in my head about a commuting bird. Where he's like on the train and he has like a tiny briefcase and people are giving him weird looks and he just stares back at them like, some of us have to get to work, Steve. Now,
have you, in your imagination of this, gotten to the same point that I have, whereas that sometimes that bird like gets up for a comedy open mic night and he does the "I just flew in from Chicago and boy are my arms tired," and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I get it," because they're birds.
But my bird does have a tiny hat that he wears, so. No, that works for me. Like he does open mic stand up, and he's got like that one
birds.
joke. He's got that one joke, and like that one joke. No, he doesn't do it for other birds. Definitely not. He's absolutely doing it for humans. And he's got like that one joke, and that one joke crushes it. And like he tries real hard to like flow from there, but it just never works.
Well, the problem is like other bird humor probably isn't quite that relatable to humans.
No, probably not.
Anyway, bird talk. Dave, what is our fourth star of the week?
So our fourth star of the week, man, is like I said, I just got back from these. I just thought I'd tell you about, I don't know, my travels, with Dave. So we did this big triangle basically. So the twins are only good in the car for like 4 hours. Like after 4 hours, they get very, very cranky. So what we decided is we would do as much as we can to sort of like break this trip up into 4-hour chunks, right? So we had a wedding to go to up in New Jersey, and then we had a big, like a week-long conference that we were going to down in Virginia. And sort of like it wouldn't have made sense to try and like get back from New Jersey to Cleveland, like because of the way the timing worked.
Yeah.
So what we did is we went from Cleveland up to Jersey over the course of like 2 days. We were there for like a few days, and then we went down to Maryland to visit mom and dad because they just moved back from Sweden. And then we were there for like 4 or 5 days, and then we went to this conference in Virginia, and then we went back to Maryland just to like cut the drive in half, and then back to Ohio. We just got home yesterday, right? So we were in New Jersey / New York City. We were in like Jersey City, which is like across the river from Manhattan, which I only know because I was there. I know nothing about New Jersey or New York like geography.
I mean, I wouldn't judge you if you did.
Yeah, I just don't. I just don't want to like portray myself as like, oh yeah, it's right across the river from Manhattan. Like that's just not who I am.
Yeah, I'm a New York guy.
Right. So let me say first of all that my experience in New York is like I'm really torn on it because on one hand, I consider New York to be like sort of a hell pit of a city. Like I never in a million years would I want to live in New York. The only way that you could conceivably pay me enough to live in New York would be to pay me so much money that I effectively would not have to interact with New York. Does that make sense?
I mean, it seems like sort of a waste of living in New York, for sure.
Wait, no. But on the other hand, like, New York is really cool. You see what I'm like? I would only want to live in New York if I had so much money that I could just sort of like ease my way through New York. I don't know. I have complicated feelings on the subject.
New York is one of the cities that it exists in my head in a category that I like to call my magic door cities, whereas I would like to have a magic door that would just like bring me there, like a portal.
Okay, yes, that makes a ton of sense.
So that I could live here and then go there, but like go there in such a way that I could just sort of like exist there as much as I want to and then like duck out.
Yeah, so let me like paint two contrasting pictures for you here. Like on one hand, we went to the National History Museum, which I love.
Sure.
The National History Museum is amazing. They've got like a 22-ton meteor that's like iron and it's sunk into the bedrock, and that's the only way they can hold it up. They got like dinosaur bones and all sorts of other stuff. It's incredible. I love it, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when we first showed up, because we got this great Airbnb in Jersey City, and we're like, oh, we need some groceries, like, because we need groceries. So I was like, okay, well, like, I'll just find so I'm like punching grocery store into the GPS, and it's like, oh, there's like a Whole Foods 1.5 miles from you. Great. I know. Remember how I said I don't know anything about New York geography?
Sure.
So anybody who's listening to this in New York is going to laugh at me in a second, because what I didn't know is that this Whole Foods was 1.5 miles away, right? But it was 1.5 miles away in Manhattan through the Holland Tunnel, which goes like under the river or whatever that separates Manhattan and New Jersey. I think it's a bay, I guess, anyways. So it took a solid 45 minutes to traverse the 1.5 miles. We drove around the Whole Foods, realized there was no parking, because of course there wasn't any parking, because it's Manhattan.
Sure.
Realized, like, well, we have the babies in the car, so we can't do this now, and then had to circle around the, like, labyrinthine streets that surround the entrance, like, back to the Holland Tunnel for an additional half an hour, and then it took us another half an hour to get back to the Airbnb. So I spent 1.5 hours driving for no groceries.
You spent 1.5 hours not getting groceries.
Yeah. So, like, contrasting experiences is what I'm saying. So anyway, so that was, but Jersey City, I don't know that I would recommend, like, we took, like, day trips into Manhattan, and, like, that was fine. We saw the museum, and it was very cool. Jersey City was rad to hang out in.
Really?
Yeah. It's super great. Like, it's fairly small. It's really easy. It's very, like, it's a big grid, so it's very difficult to get lost. Like, it's easy to tell kind of where you are at all times. And there's a bunch of parks and, like, great little restaurants, and it's all very walkable. And then if you want to go into New York City, there's, like, train stops, like, subway stops, and you can pop right in. So, yeah, Jersey City rules. Like, it was great. So, like I said, we went up for, this has been Dave's thoughts on New York City. So we're up there for this wedding, right?
Uh-huh.
And I don't think Kevin and Miranda listen to the podcast, but if they do, hi guys, congratulations. So Kevin and Miranda.
Dave, I'm sorry, are we still on the 4th star, or is this the 5th star now?
I guess this is the 5th star.
Or are we just
now.
sort of in like?
It's just, listen, I'm just kind of rolling on this one, Matt.
Okay.
There's a lot. I was gone for 2.5 weeks. There's a lot to talk about. Anyways. Miranda is Beth's cousin, and they're very close. Like, Beth was in the wedding, and so Miranda and Kevin got married, right? Lovely. Miranda and Kevin are lovely, lovely people. And they are, like, they're enthusiastic about everything. Like, they're fantastic. I wish them the best of everything. And that enthusiasm and zest for life boiled out into their wedding. And it boiled out into their wedding in the way that only a woman, Miranda, whose father works in, like, high-powered accountancy in New York City, and Kevin, who, I don't know, I think, like, owns an insurance agency.
Okay.
Like, yeah. So that sort of financial resources bubbled out into this wedding. It was the most ridiculous reception I've ever been to.
In what ways?
Okay. So first of all, it was at the Park Savoy Estate. You've heard of the Park Savoy Hotel, right? Or the Savoy Hotel? Yeah, the Park Savoy Estate is the estate that Savoy, I think, built himself in New Jersey. All right.
Okay.
So it's like a mansion.
Pretty
and then
nice,
there's like
probably.
a golf course. Yeah, it's incredible. So we walk in, and there's 3 besuited saxophone players. There's saxophone players, like, serenading people as they enter. These are not the only musicians. They are part of, like, a 20-piece live band that will be playing later.
Okay,
All
so
right?
at some point, this is not a situation where the band is just spread out around and is all kind of playing their piece separate from all the others.
Oh, no. Like, when the reception gets going, everybody swings in on this bad boy. All right? So we walk in. There is a circular table, all right? And it's probably, it's like a ring. It's a ring because it's so large that, like, putting things in the middle would be untenable because you couldn't reach it. Like, this ring is probably, I don't know, 20 feet in diameter, all right? And it is laden with charcuterie and, like, cheese and stuff, right? To the left of that is an open bar. To the right of that is, like, a lo mein station, all right? Where someone is just, like, cooking up lo mein to order, and they have, like, little Chinese to-go boxes, right?
So you got whiskey to the left of you, lo mein to the right. Here
Yeah.
you are, stuck in the middle with you.
Cruising down the freeway in the hot, hot sun. Past that is like a roast beef carving station. On the
Wait,
far
did you
end
think
of,
I was going for how bizarre? And not
It's
stuck in
sorta-
the middle with you?
It's how it felt. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
just Matt.
no, listen, it's fair.
So, anyways, past that, on the far wall, Matt, is the shrimp and oyster station. To the left of that,
Well, you would want it to have its own station.
Yeah. To the left of that, Matt, is the mac and cheese bar.
Okay.
All right, where there's like mac and cheese, and then you like choose your mix-ins. It's like the Cold Stone Creamery of mac and cheese.
Okay.
All right,
Hot Stone Creamery.
Hot Stone Creamery. That's disgusting. But yes, that's what it is. Okay. Apparently, like back behind the bar, someplace like in a slightly different alcove, was a sushi station. On the patio was the hot seafood station where there's like oysters, Rockefeller, and clams casino and some sort of like shrimp Alfredo dish. To the left of that was both the fajita station and the burgers and fries. Okay. So we're walking around, like we're eating this delicious food, like we're having some drinks, like we're trying to wrangle the babies. There was a babysitter downstairs, but like the babies don't do super well with babysitters. So like, oh yeah, they had just paid for a babysitter. So like you could just drop your kids and hang. So we're walking around and we're like eating all this food.
This is not catering. This is high-end food. This is like they have built a like bespoke high-end food court.
Yeah, this is precisely what they have done. So we're walking around, and someone says, "You know what's crazy? This isn't even dinner." And I turned and said, "What?" And they said, "No, this isn't even dinner. This is appetizers. The roast beef carving station was an appetizer." And I said, "That can't be true." So I went and found the mother of the bride, and I said, "Shanna, someone told me that these are just the appetizers. That can't be true." And she said, "It is true." And I didn't even know how to respond to that. But it was true, because after that there was a sit-down dinner, which was very nice, and where they continued the open bar. And then after the sit-down dinner, where the 20-piece band was playing for the reception, we went back for dessert.
How? How did you manage to do this thing?
Well, we suspected that this might be the case. So, the desserts. There's wedding cake, obviously, right? Yeah, so let me just like walk you through this. Okay, listen, sorry, Matt, I know we're going long. You just need to hear about these desserts.
Okay.
So on the right-hand side, so see you walk in. So the giant table is now laden with like cookies and petit fours and like other little like handheld cakey bitey things.
Oh,
right?
I see. So it's cool when they do a cookie bar, but when I do it, you give me crap about it for 15 years. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Listen, no. Maybe what I should have said, maybe you just didn't do a good enough cookie bar. So giant cookie/cake bar, right? To the right is the Belgian waffle station.
Sure.
Okay. Ahead of
to the right of that is the German waffle station.
Ahead of that, where they're actually cutting and serving the birthday cake.
I'm sorry?
The wedding.
Okay.
So up against
I thought that this had
wedding.
gotten buck wild and this was also a birthday party?
No, that would be more reasonable. But this is just, listen. So past that is, and guys, if you do this, I just want you to know, because I think Kevin might listen to this show, I want you to know that I am so deeply in love with everything that you guys did. I hope in no way this sounds like I love it. But anyway, so past that, Belgian waffle station, wedding cake station, cookies. Past that, is the Bananas Foster station.
Okay.
And then to the left of that, like Bananas Foster with ice cream. And then to the left of that, there is a dude filling cannolis, like to order. And then on the left-hand wall is the like espresso/cappuccino/ like adult coffee with like Baileys and stuff section.
Okay.
And then just closer to that was a dude who was frying donuts.
Just like frying them to order.
Yeah. Like he just had a big old thing of hot oil and was doing, well, they were like, it's like a New Jersey, it's just like a fried dough, but it's basically a donut and deep fried Oreos. So that was the desserts. And so we found Kevin and Miranda were like, guys, did they just show you the menu of selections that you could choose from? And you just said yes. And they said, yeah, basically, like, eat up. It's great. We're so excited we got married. So anyways, there's a lot more to talk about in my various travels, but we're at a long 5 stars already.
Yeah,
so
well,
let's
maybe
talk about...
we can touch back on those in later weeks.
Hey, so let's talk about something else.
Yeah, and the thing that we are talking about now is episode 30 of Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. It is called The Earth Sleeping Like a Log, and we will get right into it right after this. Okay, welcome back. So, we just watched episode 30. The Earth was sleeping like a log through a good part of it, but thankfully I was not. So I was able to be awake to write notes down. Otherwise, this back half of the episode would be very weird.
Well, it would match the episode then, Matt, because this episode was also very, very weird.
We start this episode
can I just say real quickly,
a very serious question.
I was really expecting, when these were machine beasts, I was really expecting a lot more like Transformers-esque monsters. Like, I was expecting the monsters to be much more like machine-oriented.
I mean, early in the season, they were.
Yeah, for like 6 or 7 episodes. And now, we'll just get into it, but you'll see. So, the episode opens up. We're on the moon. We are watching Baranoia, and all of the royal members of the Baranoia house are asleep.
Okay, they are... they're not asleep like you put a computer to sleep. They're asleep like a person sleeps. Prince Bulldont is snoring.
Yeah, he's snoring and he's got like a little bubble in his nose.
Yeah, which is like the bubble coming in and out of the nose is like in like Japanese. It might be throughout more stuff than just TV. It probably is, but I know like you see it in like video games and anime and stuff. It's a standard visual representation of a person sleeping, but like sleeping. He's a robot. Like, how is he? Why would they have the ability to sleep? They don't want to. They're mad about it when they wake up. Like,
yeah, that's actually like it's a point that somebody makes. So, yeah, okay. So it's just the royalty, and then I think is it Acha and Kocha come in and they're like, "What are you doing? Machines don't nap."
Yeah. So like
and
they
he,
know
wakes
that
them
something
all up.
is wrong.
Yeah, And then the royal family are like, "Ugh, yes, why? We're so angry that we were asleep." And we look over what we see. The reason that they are asleep is that this week's monster is called Bara Gusaka. And I'm assuming that means that's some sort of sleep-oriented pun in Japanese. And he is a very, very sleepy robot. He's just maybe the sleepiest robot.
He's actually kind of cute. He's got these giant...
He is. He's adorable.
He's got these giant eyes, and I think the reason his eyes are so big is so that they could, like, articulate both upper and lower eyelids for it. So, like, you can see the whole time he's struggling to keep his eyes open. He has a giant sleep cap on, and why on earth did anyone build him?
I don't...
what was the point?
Here's the only thing. I think there is some establishment that... You don't, like, the robots just sort of seem to come into existence in some way. Like, they don't necessarily all get, like, built.
And this is maybe a trouble with the fact that we haven't done an episode in a few weeks. Did we learn something about the Machine Empire that would, like, lead us to believe this?
I thought that we ran into a robot that sort of, like, came into existence and they were like, where did you even come from? Or something like that. No. You know what it was? It was the Cactus Brothers. Because they were tearing them apart, trying to figure out why they, like, had feelings or something, which I think led us to believe that they hadn't been, like, built by the Empire, like, as such. Because if they had been built, then we would have known, like, why they had emotions. Or it was something like that.
Yeah.
But in any case, if they did build them, why would you build a sleepy bot?
And why would you let the sleepy bot just come and hang out in the throne room?
Well, okay, that kind of makes sense because wherever here's the deal. He just sort of emits like a hypnotic sleepy sound field. Like he hypnotizes you to sleep with like a sound that he makes. So maybe he just wanders around and everybody around him falls asleep. So it's not so much that they let him in, it's that anybody who would have stopped him was asleep.
Okay, so the Acha and Kojo wake up the royal family. Emperor Bacchuswrath is furious, and he turns to Bara Gusuka and is like, hey, you put us to sleep. That's not cool. In fact, your putting us to sleep has delayed the invasion of Earth by 2 minutes and 35 seconds, and that is unforgivable, and now I sentence you to death.
Dude,
he is on a tight schedule.
Yeah, Bacchuswrath is getting pretty high on my list of favorite big villains for this show. Like, I really appreciate the degree to which he does not operate by half measures. So anyways, yeah, he sentences Bara Gusaka to death. And they, and Acha, is it Acha and Kocha? Or like,
no, it's the Empress.
Oh, thank you. She says, wait a minute. We might be able to use this to our advantage. Like, we might actually be able to turn this guy into a tactical asset. Let's send him down to Earth. Like, Acha and Kocha, you guys, like, handle it.
Right. Like, he's not useful as, like, a fighting monster, but I think the idea is they're just going to use him as, like, a sleep bomb. They're just going to drop him on Earth and, like, just see what happens.
Yeah, well, and that is exactly what they do. So the next scene, what we see is it's the Jetmen. The Ohrangers, and they have jets is the thing.
They do have them.
So the Ohrangers are in their jets, and which is pretty cool that they're keeping up with that. We haven't seen them in those jets in a long time. And so they're in their jets, and they're like flying around. And they see one of the Bara flyers, like the octopus cannon flyery things. And it's just flying around, and it's just got Bara Gusaka strapped to the back.
And the Bara soldier who is piloting it is like falling asleep at the stick, like desperately trying to stay awake before it crashes into Earth.
Yeah, and the Rangers, they're like, what's going on? Paranoia! But then they also immediately start to fall asleep. And you just see, it's constantly flashing back to Bara Gusaka, who is barely staying awake through this whole thing. So the Rangers are sleepy. They're trying to shoot down the Bara flyer. Like, I think they miss because they're so sleepy.
They do connect with it, but they don't, like, blow it up. They just force it to crash land.
Okay, so it crash lands, and then the Rangers are just, like, there immediately. I don't know where they parked their No, maybe they just jump out the bottom of it. They can do that, right?
Yeah.
We saw, yeah. So they
Gora
just jump
used
out
to
the
do
bottom
it
of their
while
planes.
he was on a motorcycle.
Yeah, it was amazing. I don't know why they stopped doing that move. So they arrive and they are already henshined, and Baragasaka is there, and there's not even a fight.
Well, I mean,
Like-
there's a brief fight between the Rangers and some Bara soldiers who have come down. And really the only notable thing about this fight is that there's one shot where, like, the camera has been placed sort of, like, in the creek next to where they're fighting and covered with a clear, like, plastic thing so it can see through it. So water is just splashing up onto, like, the lens of the camera almost. It's a cool shot. That's the only cool thing about this fight.
Yeah, well, my question about it is that the Rangers are falling asleep because of Baragasaka, but so are the Bara soldiers that are supposed to be fighting them. Like, they're all falling asleep. So we don't understand how Baragasaka is supposed to be an effective weapon, because, like, his allies also, like, he can't turn off his friendly fire.
Well, the thing
anyway.
is that for some reason, and it's never actually addressed, but Acha and Kocha don't fall asleep around Baragasaka. Like, it's not something that they're like, for some reason you are impervious. Just for, like, they forgot to write a reason why that was true, but Acha and Kocha are always awake when everyone else is falling asleep.
Yeah, which would be more dangerous, except Acha and Kocha seem like basically incapable of fighting on their own.
Well, the thing is that Acha and Kocha brought a gun. And it's not a huge gun. It's kind of a big
That's
gun.
right, I forgot about that.
It's just like it's about halfway between a handgun and a rifle. It's just like a long-barreled pistol, sort of. And Acha sort of like braces it up on Coach's shoulder and is about to shoot the sleeping Ohrangers when out of nowhere, our hero, Ricky, arrives.
Oh yeah, and for some reason, he is also, like, he is immune. Like, he is completely immune to this, like, Baragasaka's sleepy effect. And so he just wrecks Baragasaka. It takes, like, 30 seconds. Like, he shows up, he's already henshined, he just drops, like, King Victory Flash, and that's it. I am sort of wondering, because we don't get it in this episode either, I'm wondering if we are ever going to get any sort of story attached to Ricky.
In what way?
Well, I mean, like, we have his backstory, and then in the last 1 or 2 episodes, he's shown up for a fight, but there's no continuing, like, he doesn't have any part of the narrative. Like, he just shows up, like, he doesn't even show up with the other Rangers, and it's like, hey, what's up, guys? He just, like, dives into the middle of a fight, and just fights, and then he's like, later, guys, and then he's out. Like, I just want to know if there's going to be more narrative attached to him.
Probably. I mean, right now we know that his main priority is, like, hanging out with and protecting Doran. So I'm sure he, like, monitors the situation, hangs out with Doran, and if it looks like they need him, he just, like, pops over and shoots somebody with a staff. I mean, it's not super satisfying, but I assume that's what's happening.
Yes. So anyways, Baragasaka gets blasted.
Yeah, and
That's it.
it is now destroyed. Episode over. Everyone go home. We had a good time this week.
Except it's not. So we go back up to the moon, and Acha and Kocha are apologizing to Baka's Wrath. They're like, oh, we're super sorry. Turns out Baragasaka was real wimpy. Sorry, boss. Like, I don't know what to do.
Thankfully for them, Emperor Bacchus Wrath is way more mad at Ricky than he is at Acha and Kocha, so
Yeah.
they are able to sort of like slink away before he turns his wrath towards them.
Yeah, so we flip from there down to the Ohranger's base, and they're like, we're not actually really sure why. And the chief says, I don't know, man, my best guess is that the 600 million years you spent in space, in like a time warp dimension, has altered your constitution for some reason in an unknowable way that has made you immune to this particular attack.
Yeah, that's it. No further explanation.
Dude, you know, man, I'm delighted. Because, you know what, we're always asking, like, couldn't you take the 3 seconds to give us at least a half-hearted explanation? And they did. I feel like after all these years, they're finally taking some notes.
Well, they did take 3 seconds, and they did give us a very half-hearted explanation.
A very half-hearted explanation. So we flip from there. That's it, by the way. That's the end of that scene. We flip over, and Mr. Henna, the robot researcher, finds Baragusaka.
What is left of Baragusaka? Because
What is left of
Baragusaka was
Baragusaka?
blown into pieces.
And he just and he's got the shuttlecocks like on suction cups attached to his head again. I'm wondering if those are meant to be some sort of like, if the idea is that there's some sort of like robot sensor that he uses to find robots.
Man, I don't know.
Because
Because I
once he's
also
back
feel like
in
he
his-
doesn't really know that much about robots. Like, he kind of does. Like, he
Well,
definitely
he's
knows.
researching, Matt.
He knows more.
If he knew, he wouldn't be a researcher.
He knows more about robots than I do, right? But, like, not that much.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Okay, so he's putting Baragasaka kind of back together. He's sort of using the parts to build a new robot. As far as I can tell, robots in the Ohranger universe are basically Mr. Potato Heads. Like, you just kind of jam robot pieces next to each other, and then they connect, and then it's a robot.
Yeah, and he's literally just grabbing junk from around his laboratory. And
Yeah,
honestly,
he
to
uses
call it
a-
a laboratory is, like, super complimentary towards this room.
Yeah, it's a very dirty pawn shop.
Yeah, sorta.
Yeah, so, like, he's just got all sorts of stuff. Or maybe, like an old garage.
Yeah, so he jams enough stuff sort of back together and uses enough, like, duct tape and, like, baling wire to put this thing back together. And he flicks the switch, and it turns on. And, oh, by the way, he's basically turned it into, like a music box or a tin soldier sort of deal where it has to be wound up.
Yes. So, yes. Here is a thing about this. So he winds it up, and that makes sense. In a minute, I just need to talk about this now because we're talking about the winding. In a minute, Baragusaka is going to start to run out of power because he's going to start to wind down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he reaches up and he turns his own crank
Yes.
and he powers himself back up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. That's not. You can't do that.
Why not?
You can't do that. Thermodynamics says you can't do that. It doesn't make any.
Dave.
You're not allowed.
You are not allowed to appeal to the logic of like science and thermodynamics when it comes to Baragusaka turning his like key thing. You're just not allowed. I'm sorry. I know you want to. I want to as well. But this show has not given us that option.
Okay, man. All right.
There is a nice gag when he does that because he kind of overwinds it, and I don't know.
Oh yeah. I really thought that they were gonna like play into this later because they talk about like supercharging him, and I thought it was gonna get weird.
Yeah, and like listeners, I don't know how old you are or if you have like encountered a lot of music boxes in your life, but if you wind that thing too tightly, like it goes too quickly, and so like the music that comes out of it is like weird and sped up and sort of messed up sounding, and that happens. And they speed up the film, and he's walking around way too quickly until it sort of like equalizes.
Yeah. So and then, like I said, they talk later about like overcharging him, and I thought that this same gag was going to come back into play. It doesn't. This is just like a one-off gag about like winding springs too hard, which did work. So anyways, I don't really know what Mr. Henna was trying to achieve, because what he has just achieved is he has just made a very sleepy robot. I think maybe he was just trying to rebuild Baragusaka. Oh, we do see very, very quickly, we see Acha and Kocha like looking on secretly and saying like, yeah, like Mr. Henna does not appear to be working for the Baranoia Empire like directly. Dude just loves robots.
Yeah, dude, okay. If this show had stayed on its original, like, darker path, there is a version of the Mr. Henna character that is really, like, creepy and bad. Because everything he does, like, he's way more interested in learning about robots than he is in, like, making sure humanity is safe. Like,
yes.
the Ohrangers stopped the monster for this week, And then Mr. Henna rebuilt it and unleashed it on the world again just to do it. Mr. Henna is kind of like, he's a weird character, and like I'm kind of happy when I see him because it's fun to see like a weird recurring character. But like,
yeah, because he's so bananas.
But like, this is a bad dude.
Yeah, he's like, he's maybe like an inadvertent enemy of humanity, but he is definitely an enemy of humanity. Okay, so he winds his own sprint. So, like, Baragasaka, rebuilt Baragasaka, is, like, just wandering around town with no clear objective. He's just wandering and putting people to sleep.
Yeah, and, like, cars are crashing and people are just falling over.
Yeah. There is a baby strapped to... Not a real baby, a baby doll. Thank goodness. There's a baby doll strapped to his back. So my only thought is maybe Mr. Henna was trying to build, like, a put-your-baby-to-sleep robot? That's the only thing I can think of.
Maybe? Man, I do not... Okay, you know what? I'm going to go full-on J. Jonah Jameson here. I do not know if Mr. Henna is a direct threat to humanity or an inadvertent menace, but he's one of the two.
Okay, so the Rangers arrive. Or not all the Rangers are there. Who is it? It's
Shohei and Juri.
Yeah, thank you. So Shohei and Juri arrive, and they see the rebuilt Baragasaka, and they are falling asleep like immediately. They are awake just long enough to call it in. Like, they get on their wrist communicators and they're like, hey, we found Baragasaka. He's somehow back up and running. We need to take care of it. And then they pass out. We flip back to base, and this is great, is that Momo, who is on the headset, is falling asleep. She's also being affected by the hypnotic sleep sound, because, like, it's a sound thing, right? So she can hear it through her headset, and it's also working on her.
Yeah, and at no point is they're like, oh man, this sound is putting people to sleep, do they think, hey, next time we go out, we should put in earplugs.
Yeah, and also it seems like their helmets should just have some sort of automatic, man, I don't know, like literally anything?
Man, maybe the reason that everyone else is falling asleep immediately, but the Ohrangers, when transformed, are able to, like, kind of fight it is not because they're, like, stronger in their Ranger form. It's just because having a helmet on literally muffles the sound a little.
Yeah, man, that might work. Okay, so anyways, Baranoia, like, at this point, Ancha and Kocha step in, and they're like, all right, clearly, like, there is some tactical advantage to Baragasaka here. He's just not powerful enough. So they kind of grab him, and they just grab him, all right? They put him in it's like a transport truck or something?
Yeah, it's like a big panel truck.
Yeah, it's like they put him in a big panel truck, and there's like a bunch of Baranoia stuff in there. And the Rangers see it, and they're like, that must be where the sound is coming from or something. So, like, they run up, and they open it, and it's booby trap. There's an explosion, And then Baragasaka jumps out, and he has been rebuilt for the third time.
Yes, and this time, his head is kind of shaped like a big speaker.
He's got a big, like, gramophone head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, specifically a gramophone head. It's like an old-style looking thing.
Yeah, like an oldie-timey thing. So he's super powerful now. Like, he's way, way, way more powerful.
Yeah.
But we get a sort of Chekhov's gun moment where he is, like, plugged into the truck.
Yeah, they have essentially turned him into the truck sound system and are blasting it around the parking lot.
Yeah, so the Rangers show up. They're already henshined, and if they couldn't deal with Baragasaka before, they definitely can't do it now. They go down basically immediately.
Yeah, and then...
Or they're fighting to stay awake, but they are not being effectual at all.
Now, the Ancha and Kocha are supremely confident. They're like, oh yeah, we made him louder, so now this will affect Ricky. There's no reason for them to assume this. Because, like, it's not like it kind of affected him before. They're right, of course, because...
Yeah, no, it absolutely does work.
But there's no reason for them to be right. There is nothing in the script that suggests that they should be right about this.
Yeah, but they are. So, so whatever. So anyway, so it works like King Ranger. He's resisting a little bit more, but he's still obviously about to go down. And then we just see real quickly. Oh, sorry. We see the chief, and the chief is like yelling encouragement into his headset, but then like the sound waves are about to put him to sleep, and he's like, "Wait!" And he takes his headset off, and he's fine.
Yes. Oh, by the way, Doran is with
him.
the chief watching this happen.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And then we get a couple of great shots, and what we see is the whole city falling asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we see some people on the road, and they are like at a stop sign, and they fall asleep. That's fine. And then we see a bunch of people on the street, and they fall asleep. And then we see a train, and what they actually do is just pause the train footage. And I think it's maybe the people on the train are supposed to have fallen asleep. And of course, when you fall asleep, the train stops.
Oh, dude, there's another shot
and
immediately
then
following. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. You go ahead. You do this one, Matt.
It's in an airport of an airplane, like just about to take off. And I don't think that it's meant to be that the captain has fallen asleep on this plane. I think the plane fell asleep, and I don't know what that means, but it's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, because what they actually do is just pause the footage.
Maybe time fell asleep? Maybe time fell asleep.
What's great is that it's old, like, it's stock footage on, like, VHS, so when they pause it, you can see that, like,
it's
the
very
train
blurry.
and the plane are, like, super blurry because it's old footage.
And it's mid-motion.
Yeah. So anyway, so everybody's asleep now. So we go back to the Rangers, and they're fighting, and Doran arrives. Hooray! And she's holding Paku, and I hate Paku.
But
I hate that stupid lizard puppet.
Paku saves the day. Doran has, by the way, she is wearing like noise canceling headphones because she's smart.
Yeah.
And apparently, whatever this is, it affects either airplanes or time itself, but it does not affect Paku because Paku is able to operate normally.
Yeah, he's totally cool. Well, lizards don't have ears, Matt.
Neither do robots, Dave. Neither do airplanes.
Sorry, that was a joke. Like, lizards do kind of have ears. Anyways, so they don't have ears, but they can't hear. Anyways, that's not the point. So Paku runs over and he like bites the cord, and that cuts the power to Baragusaka, and everybody wakes up very surprised. And then we see everybody in traffic wake up, everybody in the streets wake up, and then they just unpause the footage of the plane and the train and just keep going whatever they're doing. So there's a fight scene. And it's not a great fight scene, but there is a new song going on in the background.
Oh, heck yeah, there's a new song.
And it is just a dude yelling, action, 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 something, 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 Ohranger, action, action, action. He's just yelling action over and over again. It's great.
It is extremely good. I wish I knew what he was saying other than just action and Ohranger.
Yeah, if anybody could help us out there, that would be great. So they summon the Ole Bazooka. They shoot Baragusaka.
Oh, there is a bit in here, by the way. I'm sorry, I just didn't want to pass it by. There is a bit where Goro summons the Star Riser, and he's surrounded by Bara soldiers, and so he attacks.
Oh, yeah, this is good.
Like, he hits all of them. Okay, back in college, our friend Greek Mike was up visiting us, and we were watching the movie Equilibrium.
Yes.
And in the movie Equilibrium, and I'm sorry if I've told this story before. I feel like it's something that probably would have come up, but I'm just going to say it again. In the movie Equilibrium, there's a scene where the main character, like, is in a fight. He, like, either he shoots a bunch of people, and then he stops, and then they all, like, dead fall over at the same time. And Greek Mike said that that's how you know that this character is a ninja, because he kills them all, and then they fall over. Like, there's an order of operations here, and that order of operations equals ninja, and that's what we get with Goro.
Yeah, it's pretty excellent.
But yeah, then they just blow it up with the Ole cannon.
Yeah, so they blow him up with the Ole cannon, and then he goes giant. Cool.
And then you
like,
know what happens.
Then they summon their giant robots, and it's a little bit like they summon Orobo, And then they also immediately summon Red Puncher, which I know that I have in the past said, like, why don't they just summon everything all at once? But now I understand why they don't, because this time they do, and it really does seem like overkill. Because Baragusaka was, like, not that tough, and they just immediately, like, they summon Orobo and Red Puncher and King Pyramider. They just, like, legend beat this dude.
And when they all get stacked up, King Pyramider in its battle form is so much bigger than the giant monster. And, like, Baragusaka is sort of like a childlike monster. Like, it's definitely a monster. It's a bad guy. But, like, you kind of feel like the Ohrangers are just bullying him at this point.
Yeah, it does a little bit feel that way. I think they actually look up at King Pyramider, and I can't remember who says it, but they're like, it's so big.
Yeah, that's
very,
Baragusaka.
very large. Okay, yeah, thank you. And then they just do, like, Super Legend Beam, and then that's...
Yeah, that's all
game.
they wrote.
Yeah. So we do get a little bit of a blurb at the end where Bacchus Wrath is faking a nap to avoid having to deal with Empress Hysteria, who's very angry, and she wakes him up by dropkicking him, which is awesome.
Yes, and she's like,
if you've never seen...
She's like, robots don't sleep. Don't pretend to be asleep.
Yeah, because if you have never seen a actor in a ridiculous, like, robot Empress costume dropkick a dude in a ridiculously equally ridiculous robot Emperor costume, I submit you may not have truly lived. I don't know if I had truly lived until that moment. And then we just see Doran and Ricky sleeping in a tree.
Yep, they're taking a nap.
The Rangers are like,
up in the tree.
Yeah, and then that's it.
Yeah, and that is it for that episode. But David, is not quite yet it for our episode, because now it is our time to see where Baragusaka lands in the casino. Nope. In the Creature Royale. It's been a couple of weeks, folks.
Yeah, so I like Baragusaka, even though he's not actually particularly effective.
Yes.
Because he is... I like the idea that he gets rebuilt a few times. I think that's pretty fun. And he does have... Like, he's a weird dynamic, because he himself is not actually very aggressive. He's like a support monster.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting idea.
And, you know, I feel like that is... It kind of reminds me of the Pachinko Master. And I think that's probably a good place to start looking on this list.
Okay.
Because, again, the Pachinko Master, like, had a lot of power in him, but was not particularly interested in using it. And then that got used by, like, the larger enemies to put it on attack on the Die Rangers.
Yeah, okay. So Pachinko Master comes in at slot 64, and I agree with you. I think that's a good spot for him to kind of be in and around, which is actually just above the kind of middle of the list. He's just above the Ring Priestesses. Above him is the Master Mirror and Dara Dara, and then Bara Hungry and Lieutenant Shiryo and Fortune Telling Dimension. And below him is the Ghost Lantern from Kaku Ranger, and then Copy Empress, Bara Magma, and Kanagama the Slot Machine, also from Kaku Ranger, and then the Sandwich, Tsunekake Baba, and Bakaneko, the Cat Lady.
Okay, so I think somewhere in there is a good range. Master Mirror is the one that had imprisoned Kujiku, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
In that case, I'm going to say, let's go down from Pachinko Master. Maybe below Copy Empress and above Baramagma?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Like, Baramagma was cool. He was pretty interesting.
Like
he's definitely not in the Copy Empress realm.
Yeah, Baramagma had like a cool look and an interesting plan where he was just gonna like blow up a mountain. But Copy Empress like cloned all of the heroes. So yeah, I say so that puts him at our new number 70?
That is correct.
Right on. Well, that business having been concluded, Dave, that is going to do it for another episode of For Your Eyes, Ohranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all that you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. You want to get any updates on future episodes or check out what we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, please remember that shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. That's what's going to help new people find the show, and that is cool. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. If you would like to check out any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can do so at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.